Hello everyone, Anthony Leopold here, AQW Rose 91, and I got some news. I've now got 100% trophies of Final Fantasy XV. I've been playing through recently the Royal Pack content of Final Fantasy XV, and I've gotten all of its trophies. So now I am fully 100% up to date with the trophies on Final Fantasy XV. I mean, like the past few months, I've been playing Comrades, I've done all the DLC content on them. I did episode Ignis, done all the content on that, got all the trophies on that. And now I have done the Royal Edition content, which was the DLC I got. Now with the Royal Pack, it's additional content that either comes with the Final Fantasy XV Royal Edition, which you can buy physically or digitally, or for those who already have the Final Fantasy XV game, like I do, there's the Royal Edition DLC content, which is available separately for about $11.99, I think. I'll have to look on the price on PSN store before I do the full review of it. Now, what I'm going to be saying, guys, here is going to be a rant on Final Fantasy XV, and to express my feelings toward it as of now, since I've been playing 15 for the past 2 months, and since I got the trophies for it, I think it's time to let it out. Was Final Fantasy XV worth the long 10-year wait? Half of myself says no. 10% of myself says yes, and only 40% of myself says maybe. Because after all that 10-year wait, this wasn't the RPG we hoped for, the long-awaited Final Fantasy game we hoped for. You will have to apologise, I've got a bit of something in my throat. Ever since the announcement of Final Fantasy XV, which was what the game was originally going to be called, me and my best friends from school had high hopes for it. Had high hopes for Final Fantasy XV. It was going to set as an alternative story to the Final Fantasy XIII universe, but obviously they changed it to try and to ignore anything with all the relations to Final Fantasy XIII. Because of how much of this massive disappointment Final Fantasy XIII was. Now the sequels were just like garbage, Lightning Returns in particular. And then there was all the rumours that it was going to be cancelled. There was all the massive delays. There was all the literally all the talk of what all the settings it was going to be, and all the ways the story was going to be changed. They literally changed up the whole story of Final Fantasy XV when it was first announced as versus 13 at the time. I mean, like the trailer showcasing versus 13 at the time looked really better. and are far more better than what the actual game really is. Like the way they showed Noctis taking on like the Empire soldiers in the trailer looked really badass. It just looked, and it looked really sick, and we actually were looking forward to it. And then there was all the changes they made, and then all the vast majority of changes came to be, and then the whole story was changed entirely. So now, Noctis being on a road trip with his buddies. And then his whole kingdom gets taken over, whatnot. I didn't find the majority of the plot that good, especially the first time I played through it. Now, in all fairness, they have patched this game quite a fair number of times. They've added it in like some of the cutscenes. I think which were from the Kingsglaive movie, Final Fantasy XV. At least some of the movie clip shots were taken from Kingsglaive Final Fantasy XV. I haven't seen that movie. And then what else is there to say? I didn't find the majority of the characters that memorable. I mean, they start out interestingly enough. Mabertanus start on a road trip before they set sail to Lunafreya. Otissia to meet Noctis' girlfriend. Noctis' beloved soon-to-be wife. What is it? Lunafreya. And then all of a sudden his kingdom gets taken over, and Noctis is there trying to fight off the Empire, and then there's all these there's some guy in a big coat and a hat, Arden, who's like, I don't know, he's either trying to like apparently do things either against the Empire or trying to help them to a, I don't know. I don't find Arden, the main villain, all that interesting. I mean, he's just there either to just to satisfy his own ambitions, and he doesn't really try anything all that worthy of a villain, besides killing Noctis' girl in chapter 9. And then there's all the other villains as well. Some of the other Empire, like Ravus, Aranea. Well, Ravus at least looks at least is somewhat promising. And one of the other guys I can't remember. One of the other Empire guys I can't remember. I know one of them dies. I know one of them you fight in chapter 2 of the game. Loki, whatever. I can't pronounce his name. And then there's one of the Empire side, one of the higher ranked officers in the Empire. That oh, what is it? You capture and he gets away in one of the chapters. I think chapter 5 or chapter 6. Yeah, I think chapter 6. Who you catch and he gets away. He doesn't show up for the rest of the main game. So apologies for the jump cut. Right, and then there's Aranea, who at first seems to be fighting, who at first it seems to be fighting for the Empire. And I mean, fair enough, she's one of the the bosses who fights you. And then when you get to chapter 7, the story really just falls apart and just really becomes so confusing. Like, I just had trouble following what was going on. And at that point I was just like, what's going on? You meet Arden again in chapter 7, and you go about to search for Mithril to get the King Ragius's boat going. And who do you meet there at the temple entrance? The boss you just killed, the boss you defeated, Aranea. And she wasn't even and she was a boss and she was a boss in the previous chapter. Why was she there? Why is she there? Why was she helping you? It's like, doesn't the Empire want the Mithril for their own agendas? Maybe. Like, when aren't they supposed to be taking over? Aren't they supposed to be? I just don't know. And it was at the point Gladio leaves the group. Gladio, the big muscular guy. I forgot to mention the 4 main characters. There's Noctis, the main character. You got Gladiolus, the big muscle guy. You got Ignis, the tactical guy in the glasses, who's like the party member's tactician and expert chef and driver. Yeah, so he's the man who carries the whole party. I gotta say. And then there's Prompto, the big, huge, spiky dude whose hairstyle is a rip-off of Cloud. He's just a Cloud. He's like a teenage version of Cloud who's spoiled and got an obsession with photographs, taking selfies and whatnot. It's just, I don't know about Prompto. He's just a very obscure character, and he uses guns as well. So those are the 4 main characters of Final Fantasy 15. So getting back to the topic at hand, Gladio then leads the group in chapter 6, which is when episode Gladiolus DLC, which I'll explain moments later, takes place. And then you're stuck with like Aranea for a chapter, and then afterwards she just takes you back somewhere. She just takes you back. Whatever. As if I really care. What else? You get the ship back together and you finally then go to Aticia. Oh, I forgot to mention in one of the chapters, I think chapter 4, and somehow in chapter 5, and in chapter 5 as well. What is it? Noctis starts suffering headaches. I think chapter 3 as well. I'm not sure. And eventually he's pointed out to the 6 elemental beings. I think they're called Archeons. I really can't remember. And eventually gets into more power with Titan. He gets Titan as a summoning, and then you get in chapter 5, after following Rama's lightning, you eventually get Rama, and then you start taking on the Empire and reclaim the regalia. The Empire take the regalia from you, and you have to get it back from them. So let's go on to chapter 8. In chapter 8, everyone's back together. Chapter 7 and 8. On this gains all the the royal arms, which he gets throughout 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. He starts getting like some of the royal arms I've been scattered about in order to awaken to the power of kings. And then chapter 9, he then gets on a boat ride to Atisia to try and be together with Lunafreya, who then starts the trial of the Leviathan, which is another one of the 6 elemental beings that you summon. And Lunafreya struggles to keep Leviathan in check. I'm trying to remember now. And eventually Noctis goes up against Leviathan to request his power. And that doesn't go up pretty well for his end. And then Inon shows up, kills Lunafreya. But before she dies, she gives Noctis the power, the awakening of his real power. And he eventually fights Leviathan in a very sick fashion, and then defeats Leviathan afterwards. And then he loses conscious, and then there's where episode Ignis takes place, where Ignis has to locate Noctis before the Empire does. And then eventually chapter 10 starts, and a little story, character development story, pretty much all goes down the toilet. Noctis and Gladio starts. Well, Gladio starts an argument against Noctis, and Ignis lost his vision. Upon trying to save Noctis, he loses his vision. And everyone's all trying to keep Ignis together. And the Gladio is all like trying to annoy Noctis as possible, which I found that chapter just really annoying because the Gladio are alone. Eventually, by the end of the chapter, when they struggle against the boss's guard in the tomb, Ignis saves the whole group, and he eventually comes to us, and then he starts sternly scolding both the whole party, stopping the whole bickering and madness between Gladio. And he stands up to Gladio when Gladio actually says to Ignis, yells at Ignis, saying, if he can't fight, jump cut there. So like I was saying, what was it? When Gladiator was having a go at Ignis, because Ignis lost his vision and he can't fight. He tells Ignis to stay out of the fighting, but Ignis says that he wants to stay with the party all the way through, and he insists, and he stops the then he gives Noctis a bit more respect and time after what Noctis has gone through in chapter 9. And the whole party and the harmony of the group is restored. Then chapter 11, Noctis and the group are fighting the Empire, and once more Arden comes in on board, leads the Empire. It's where Noctis is no longer taking any crap from Arden. And then chapter 12, and then at the very end of the chapter, Arden tricks Noctis into hitting Prompto. And then at the start of chapter 12, Noctis is fighting off the demons until they arrive at the train station where they meet the Empire. Where they meet, not the Empire, Oranea. Who again is just there because, I don't know. So at this point, I was like, why is she here? Why is she there? Why is she helping us when she was on the Empire side? When she should have been on the Empire side all along? And then, what is it? Sometime then, it's where you learn where Prompto. And it's where sometime after that is where episode Prompto takes place, where Prompto is trying to find out where Prompto is I'll come to it later. I won't talk about episode Prompto now. And then after fighting off some demons, Arden comes in on board. And gains another summon. It's Shiva, and he was actually in the form of another being, Genitia. I can't pronounce her name. Who was like the Oracle who has been watching Noctis all along. And then eventually, chapter 13 starts, the infamous chapter 13, where Noctis and the guys have their powers disabled, or the weapons sealed, whatever, and you spend chapter 13 running through corridor to corridor to corridor, activating switches and doing all sorts of puzzles on there. It mainly just involves running through corridor to corridor, either with some of the most poorly designed stealth sections. And the best way to get past chapter 13 is just to run past. Is just to run past anything. Is just to run past everything. And you got this, and you got that stupid looking ring, and you got that stupid ring at with some attacks, with two of the attacks it has, Holy and one other, that are just worthless. But the only one you need is Death. which slowly kills it, but it drains a lot of your MP. Frankly, I was high leveled when I got up to that part. I mean, when I was up to that part, I was already like level 90 or 80, because like I had done all the various on some of the various hunts. Trying to remember what else now. Eventually, when you get the sword from, what is it, the dead Wraithess, you can start fighting a bit more effectively in chapter 13, but a lot of your powers still become sealed. And eventually, in that chapter, you separate from, was it Gladio and Ignis in that chapter? what else? Eventually, at the end of the chapter 13, you eventually get the whole party together. You rescue Prompto. You eventually break this this core thing, which is the cause of sealing your weapons, and then eventually the whole party's all together, and they head all the way up to where the crystal is. They eventually come up. When they eventually come up to it, they come up against Ravus, who's become a demon. So they kill Ravus, and then also the demons come up, and Noctis flees from the scene in order to try and reach the crystal in time. And then eventually this crystal absorbs Noctis, and Noctis is trapped in the crystal for 10 whole years. And during that 10-year gap, Noctis' companions were helping the citizens, and the Glades were helping out restore the power to Stalin, where all the refugees are sent to, in order for them to be protected from the demons. And then eventually, 10 years pass, Noctis finally awakens from his 10-year slumber, and you see him as an adult. Like throughout the game, you see Noctis as a teen, and throughout chapter 14, you see Noctis as an adult. Which seems pretty cool. So eventually Noctis heads for Hammerhead heads back to Hammerhead to reunite himself with his allies. Then the old head for Isomania, in which in the Royal Edition they've expanded upon that. They turned it into a gigantic city, where if you're doing if you're doing like some of the side quests, it's now become a maze-like area with dozens of. Alright, another jump cut. So yeah, like I was saying, in Chapter 14, now in the Royal Pack, they've expanded the crown city of Insomnia, I can't pronounce it, where it's now become a giant town full of a maze-like area, full of paths you can't go if you're doing like some of the side quests, which can make it easier to get lost in. But you get a new boss fight against Cerberus, and during the second part of the fight, Cora actually helps you to defeat it. And you see all these other elemental beings eventually joining the fight, joining to help Noctis get past the barrier in which Arden puts up. And then you fight Ifrit, afterwards, and then after that you then fight against another new boss battle for the Royal Edition. The sigil being the sigils who come to life to challenge Noctis and his companions, and eventually for the last part of the fight with them you actually take control of the characters. Like against one of them you then take control of Gladio, and it's a quick time, and then the other one is Prompto, and then the other one, and the last one is Ignis, and then you do these quick time event button prompts to finish them off, to finish them off. And then lastly, it's the final showdown with Arden. And the boss fight with Arden was extremely underwhelming. He doesn't do any form of special attacks. He just does a few punch kicks, maybe a few sword swipes. That's about it. I actually found the E3. I actually found the other boss battles more challenging than Arden. And then against Arden, it then becomes a button mashing fest. All you do, you just button mash the circle button. Nothing else. Arden takes all the damage, and then everything all just falls apart. He just dies afterwards, and then Noctis then fulfills his call as the king. He takes his throne, and the sigils then takes his life. Like literally, Noctis then sacrifices his life as the moment of the king. And then you see everyone inside the crystal. The sigils, the pot, and the allies. And he fought with his father, Lunafreya and whatnot. They all kill Arden. At least I think, or inside some void dimensional or something. I just don't know at this point. And then Arden finally dies, and then Noctis finally dies. He vanishes alongside the ring of Lucii. And then finally the whole world is saved, and the whole world gets its first light in over 10 years. And the whole thing about 10 years, that's very familiar, because that's the same amount of time this game took before we finally see the light of day. So that is the story of Final Fantasy XV, the main story. I found it extremely underwhelming, very poorly paced, at times convoluted, but then again, this is what I'm coming to expect from Final Fantasy now. There's at times a lot of convoluted, it just throws in a bunch of convoluted nonsense. Most notably the 13 games, the Final Fantasy 13 titles, they're so damn convoluted. And even the developers then knew they had to try and expand upon and fix up the story, because like I said, they released the movie Games Like Final Fantasy 15, they made the anime Brotherhood Final Fantasy 15, which 2 of those I have not watched. They then made the DLC episodes, Episode Gladio, Episode Prompto, and Episode Ignis. Episode Gladio takes place after Chapter 6. Just after Chapter 6, when Gladio leaves the party, after he feels like he doesn't seem to feel as worthy of being known as a shield, and then he takes on the trial of the Blade Master, Gilgamesh, and he defeats Gilgamesh, and he then takes on the final trial against Kor, in which I had a very tough time with Kor, and it took me like a whole afternoon to defeat Kor. Maybe because of his, mainly because of his amount of his ridiculous pattern that he does. This is so ridiculous, his pattern. You have to try and memorize his pattern and try and get into a rhythm between parrying, blocking, dodging. It was just ridiculous. And then there was Episode Prompto, which I have to say is the worst of the DLC, because like the shooting controls were so terrible. It doesn't even play like a proper third-person shooter, and it should be. And it feels just more like a crappier version of both itself, the game, both the main game itself and Dirge of Cerberus. At least Dirge of Cerberus played probably like a standard third-person shooter when you could play it as such. But Episode Prompto, it was just garbage. It was just total garbage. Gameplay was bad. It was one where Prompto was in sort of ice area, in which I have no idea. But it was a place where all these machines were being made for the Empire or something like that. Arden's there for some reason. Who knows? It's just like, why is Arden here? And then Arena's there as well. Why is Arena there? Just to try and check up on Prompto, maybe? Who knows? And who cares? And eventually he tags along with her to take down some factory or whatever. Prompto meets some machine that's supposed to be his dad or something. I don't know. I just really found it very stupid and convoluted. It was there, I just don't care about what's there. Alright, another jump pad. So here we go. And then we bring up to then the Comrades multiplayer DLC, which story-wise doesn't really tell you anything new other than what you possibly already know. Chapter 14, where Noctis reawakens, and everyone's all trying to fight back to reclaim Ansminia and his throne. You've seen it before, so you're not really missing out. Other than Comrades is a multiplayer expansion pack. It's a multiplayer expansion for the 15 universe. If you want to play multiplayer online with 15, yeah, this is that. It's just why? Because it's just a multiplayer expansion. And then they say the DLC, the one for last episode, Ignis, and I'll give the Ignis story that. It does delve into the counter development of Ignis, showcasing his resolve against Arden to try and protect his king. And he does just that. Pardon me, I'm starting to feel tired. I'll keep going. And you see how Ignis loses his vision. He puts on the Ring of Luci on. And the thing with the Ring of Luci, it can only be its power is only given to those of royal blood. And Ignis, who is not of royal blood, he pays the consequences of using it, losing his vision. In which in the main story it actually happens. But there's an alternate route that you can take in the story, where you see Ignis taken to where the crystal is, and he challenges Arden there. And what happens in that route, instead of Ignis losing his vision, he tries to sacrifice his life, and he doesn't lose his vision at all. Yeah, like he doesn't lose his vision in that path, which doesn't make sense. As I mean, you already know that Ignis loses his vision by using the Ring of Luci, but in that alternate route, he puts on the Ring of Luci as well in that path, and he doesn't lose his vision. Apologies, just got a little bit of an itch. But Ignis does see something on his path, like a future, like something that holds the future events, like Noctis sacrifices his life, or something else entirely. You see it all in the main game anyway. So I don't even know why they're there. Just there, whatever. And then there's the Royal Edition, which they try to add new cutscenes, like Arden delivering the party to safety in chapter 5, when really he could have just took the party into custody and arrested them. or what is it? But chapter 14 does actually have something good. In chapter 14, like I said, has the expanded intermediate dungeon. But it has an extra cutscene where you meet the Glaives, who have been spending the 10 years fighting off the demons. And if you played the episode Comrades, there's a quest where your customized Comrade's avatar will join you. So I eventually got to fought alongside my Final Fantasy XV Comrade's avatar, which I thought was pretty cool. And the Royal Edition also adds the boss battle against Omega, which I think was from Final Fantasy V. Omega was like the really super tough boss who has all these attacks which can wipe out one or two party members instantly. He was extremely tough. I did have a hard time fighting him, and even with my new expanded powers, which I should point out, the Royal Edition also gives you the new form of the Amagia, called the Amagia Unleashed, which would give like the 100% increased power of kings. And I had to rely on that in order to damage the boss, because using the regular Amagia wasn't going to be much of help. And even with that, there were just a ton of times I just kept getting annihilated by all these instant death attacks. But still, I managed to pull through, and the second time I fought it, I actually cheated. I actually cheated against the boss. And how did I cheat against it? Well, the boss teleported. Yes, it does teleport. But when it teleported, it got stuck on a building, which gave me an easy victory. But still, it pulled off like annoying one or two cheap attacks like that. It was mainly the barrier attack. So if you damage it a certain number of times, it will put up a bit. It will put up this barrier, which can actually instantly kill one or two of your party members if they're caught inside it. And even with that, I still won. And I got a trophy for it. Royal Edition also added the first person view mode, in which I could say it's kind of awkward having that in a Final Fantasy game, but I mainly used it for the Menace dungeons. That was the only time I ever found it useful, during the optional Menace dungeons, which were in just the main game itself. And the Menace dungeons were a mess. It's just room after room, room after room, room after room, just killing enemies, and every single room is copy and pasted and one after the other, and it goes on for like, and they go on for like hours. So you do one floor, you go to the next floor down. There's only like some, yeah, occasionally they will throw in multiple rooms linked to each other, and you have to pick the right room, whatnot. It was just super repetitive and boring. And by the time I got to the last two of the Menace dungeons, I started to really feel bored. But I chose to keep going. But then when you get to the final Menace dungeon, it throws a spanner in the works. It bans you from using items. And up until this point, I always found the AI to not be always reliable, and the health system in this game to be, oh, what's that word? How about unfavorable? I mean, I really do not like the health system in the game. Whether your maximum HP drops, and you have to use an elixir or something to fully heal it. But when you get to there, when you get to the final Menace dungeon, it's where the game fully just breaks you. Tries its hardest to break you because of all the item bans. Which means you have to put up with some enemies that will have instant death attacks. You have to put up with, oh, what is it? Enemies that can do all sorts of status effects on you. You can't do much about. I just found it much easier cooking up a recipe that protects against death, and eventually when I got to the boss of the area, I had Ignis cook a meal that protects against elemental, has elemental resistance in order to bypass it. So it was a very tedious dungeon. But going through all of it was worth it, because it gives you the monoliths, which are added to the data log. There's a trophy now for getting 80% of the data logs, and I did it through looking online on PlayStationTrophyProfiles.com, or was it PlayStationTrophies.org or something? I can't remember. Where some Chinese fella is putting up the locations of all the data logs that you need. You need to collect like 76 of them to get the trophy. And I got the majority of them by going through the open world, chapter 15 open world, and then I eventually got all the data logs from the open world, and then did chapter 10, chapter 12, and chapter 14 again to get the data logs. There are data logs in chapter 13, but I didn't want to go through chapter 13 again, because chapter 13 is just a massive mess. Trying to remember now. And when you do get 76 of them, that's that. That's the final achievement I got for Final Fantasy XV. There is an achievement also for going through some of these race courses. There are like 3 race courses for you to do. but you gotta do them when you get the Regalia upgraded to type D, I think. And which then becomes like a monster truck. And let me tell you, it's extremely, what is it, underwhelming, because the tracks are very easy. I found the tracks really easy. There were no CPU opponents to race, so there's no time, there's no record time to beat. I only used the Regalia just for those. I only used the Regalia type D just for those, and then afterwards I just changed it back to the Regalia type F, which is the Regalia with the flying ability. Even though I don't use it, I didn't use it to fly at all, aside from one occasion when I had to try and get into one of the dungeons. But it took me a couple of attempts because trying to land it was a bit of a nightmare. Because here's the thing with the Regalia type F, if you crash into something when you're flying, it's game over. And there's like dozens of videos that like comically mess up in rage. Their rage over messing up. It's like, game over and I forgot to save. But the game does save after you get it, I believe. But anyway, I eventually just changed it just to the Regalia type F, the flying one, and I just left it to just being on foot, because I thought it was mainly my way of what else? Oh, I'm trying to remember now. So and all the and there's all the cutscene on the new cutscenes I already explained. And then there were two of the events I did not partake in. There was the Assassin's event, the Assassin's Festival event, which is the collaboration with Assassin's Creed, and the holiday theme pack, which I didn't partake in as well either. There were timed events, so they stopped them. Probably for the best. Now I have talked about the gameplay, the story. Now I've talked about the story and the new content for Final Fantasy 15. The other thing I want to talk about, Final Fantasy 15 wise, is the gameplay. Final Fantasy 15's gameplay, it is kinda alright. I mean, like, it's a combat system where it at times feels like it could be challenging, where it encourages you to parry and then counterattack more than actually just button mash away. But there are just times it doesn't favor it. Like 70% of the time it doesn't favor it, and sometimes it's just more easier just to warp strike and just hold down the attack button in hopes that enemies do not attack you. I just found it more easier just to warp strike, Alright, I'm back again. Alright, Strum Cat. Okay, I'm just tired at this point. I just found it more easier just to walk straight directly to the enemies, and then just use whatever weapons I've got to try and defeat them. Use my strongest weapon I've got, and equip the royal arms. Just for stat boosts. But you know, honestly, it did help make a lot of my fights easier, in all fairness. I didn't rely on the recipes, which gave you the best of stat boosts. Yeah, you can actually learn new recipes by purchasing magazines or looking at other people's meals or fighting certain enemies or getting certain ingredients. And you see Ignatz, and you see a quote, and you see a famous quote from Ignatz when he learns a new recipe. That's it. What is it, Iggy? Come up with a new recipe. Can't wait to try it. What I have to admit is it's pretty funny. It's the most amusing part of Ignatz. And what else about the gameplay? There are times your AI partners just stand there doing nothing. And like they'll often spend like several seconds just milling about, taking hits before they'll actually do anything to help you. And I oftentimes just used some of my recovery items just to try and get myself back in the fight as quickly as I possibly can. So I didn't find the AI all that useful. I also found some of the enemies to be rather damage spongy at times. There were times where the enemies just don't flinch at all. Like you'll be doing plenty of damage to them, but the enemies do not flinch when they take damage. That makes sense? They don't stagger or anything. You mean they'll just often get a few free hits on you. Which I still just find rather annoying. Instead, when you can get a couple of parries off and counter attacks on them, it can be good. It can be good, or especially when you can get a couple of blindsides on them, like when you can attack an enemy from behind and you can do like tons of damage to them. But a lot of the issues with Final Fantasy XV's combat can often be from the health system, where like the health system, the AI, the damage sponge enemies, and whatnot. The thing is with the health system, when your HP reaches 0, you don't die. You go into what's called a danger state, and during the danger state, you watch your maximum hit points go down, and if it goes down to 0, you then fully die. You have to use a Phoenix down to revive yourself. And the health system is really, really annoying in a lot of ways, because there are just times where one more hit, well, just one hit is enough to put you back in the danger state. and it can just be really annoying, which can make a lot of the fights just really tough just because of this. I've got a lot of deaths because of it. And I do get what they were going for with this kind of system, but it's just heavily flawed in a lot of ways. Does that make sense? Right, what else? What else? I'm trying to remember now. Some of the other side attractions were not that interesting. Pronto takes screenshots. No, takes photo shots of the party on their trip. And if you feel like sharing those on Facebook with your friends, yeah, I suppose that's fine. It's worth it just for that. But other than that, it just serves no purpose. Other than you just want a trophy. Which you'll just eventually gain. I found the new link chain system okay, which is where if you start off a link chain, you press circle at the right time before it reaches the empty bar, before it reaches the assigned button. So I'm do a link chain with all the party members, and they all do like a ton of damage. I think it works really well. They introduced it in one of the patches. I believe there was a new side quest. You take on this monster who was once human, whatever. They then introduced another mechanic where you can switch between all the different characters. So like if you hold down L2 and L1 on the PS4 version by default, you can choose which of the characters you want to take control in battle. Either Gladio or Ignis or Prompto. And they can provide, and they do help provide a lot of help, but a lot of the problems from Gladio, Pronto, and Ignis do carry over. Like it can be difficult to get counter strikes in, it can be difficult to avoid certain attacks. The controls for Pronto is still terrible. For this one, and for Promptos, for some reason they put Promptos aiming and shooting controls to L1 and R1, where it should be L2 and R2. If that makes sense to you. I mean, there's already a control scheme that has L2 for blocking and R2 for attacking when you're playing as Noctis, so why can't you have those controls for Prompto? I actually had to use the accessibility screen to change the controls about. It was just annoying. Alright. So those are the new features for Final Fantasy 15. And what did I think about the DLC content? Gladio's DLC wasn't bad. So then I went through the majority of the fights pretty well, and I did get all the trophies on that one pretty easily. I went through promptos afterwards, and the trophies did take quite a bit of time. But I went through it. I went through it with difficulty. So I didn't find, considering how underpowered prompto is in this episode, and how poor the gameplay was, and the controls were. I found the arena fights much easier than the core fights. I will say, definitely a lot easier once you work out a pattern. It only took me like one death to beat her. It only took me about like one attempt to beat her. I beat her on my second try. And then on episode Igneous, I got all the trophies on that one. I did use a walkthrough guide to get the documents. Same with promptos. Gladios is getting the items. I did look in the walkthrough guide on getting those. And I used a guide to figure out how I get the other side quests, which we need to get the trophies. And then I used the guide also to for Prompto to defeat the Trine Trials as well, because they weren't very easy to beat after all. Yeah, so Prompto has sort of like an upgrade system where you can upgrade the motorcycle. It never carries across to time trials, which is stupid. And plus, Promptos is supposedly like linear or something. There's a short linear DLC. And they almost feel like they try to throw in an open world aspect at pretty much the very last minute of the game's development. And it was just very poorly put together. And then what else? And then did episode Igneous. Like I said, I did all the deals. I did get all the trophies on that. Going for the story, getting the documents and letters, and there was supposed to be extra items and an extra teddy you can get for Igneous doing it, but I never found it. One thing about episode Igneous, like I said, I did the extra path as well. Even though the extra path didn't make all that much sense. But it was just a what if sort of thing, which is what I would expect from a what if sort of perspective. And another thing as well, the fight with Noctis was notorious. Because like I said, it's not just beating Noctis that's bad, it's the ranking you need to get. You need to get the A+ rank or S rank, depending on the region of the game you got, in order to get the trophy. And I got the trophy, and I did get the trophy after like numerous tries. I did beat Noctis twice before the third time I beat him. I got the A+ trophy. Which was good. And the same thing with the comrades as well. I did all the trophies, including from the main, and including all the match update ones. Some of the trophies did take quite a long time, because going through the game was really monotonous, considering it's just, you do one quest, it's just doing all sorts of hunts, very repetitive hunts, and doing the hunts again just to get some sort of character build that you need in order to stand a chance against some of the hardest bosses in the game. And I did. I got all the trophies for it. Wasn't that difficult? They weren't all that difficult, and I didn't find any of it worth all the fuss about. Oh my god, I'm feeling really tired, aren't I? Oh well, come to the end of the rant soon. I just really didn't find the majority of the DLC content really all that good. They're just weak expenditures of the story. I mean, episode Gladio and episode Ignis, they tell their stories, which makes sense, but Pontos, I don't know, it's just convoluted, nonsensical at times, almost painful to sit through. And I don't know, it's just not, I just didn't find all of it worth all that sitting through. So, in all honesty, I didn't think Final Fantasy XV was worth the 10-year wait. Yeah, there were so many things 15 went through, and the amount of ways 15 changed, from the trailers it got to episode Dusk Sky, the demo. I didn't play episode Dusk Sky, the demo, because my copy of Type 0 HD, which I have, did come with a DLC code, but it was already used, which is a bit of a bummer. And I saw some clips about it, especially the one against the Behemoth Deadeye boss battle, and it did show, and it showcased some like promise of what Final Fantasy XV was going to be like, but eventually, I don't know. It just wasn't all that good. There were some things I did not like. And it did look okay. The episode Dusk Sky demo. But even if there were things I did not like about it, like again, the health system. And then there was a Platinum demo, which the story was just down the toilet. It was like, what was the purpose of that demo? And what the hell was that creature that Noctis had? What was its reason for being there? And then eventually the full Final Fantasy XV game came out, and I bought the, here we go, another video, there you go, another part here, another jump cut. Oh yeah, so eventually when Final Fantasy XV came out, I got the special edition, which came with the Masamune weapon and the Sydney mobile, plus a few bits of junk as well. So I didn't think Final Fantasy 15 was worth a long 10-year wait. All that potential, all that potential, all that hype, all that build-up that could have gave Final Fantasy 15 the large potential it could have been. It just wasn't worth it. Even some of my friends have started to like agree it wasn't worth a 10-year wait. It wasn't worth a long 10-year wait. There were RPGs out there that were more worth the 10-year wait in between Final Fantasy 15's release. I mean, you already have like. Let me show you now. There it is. There were other ones that were out. There were other good RPGs on the PS4 that were out at the time that were more worth the hype. There was Tales of Hysteria and Tales of Berseria. I mean, they were worth the 10-year. They were worth. What is it? Tales of Hysteria. It was worth the 2-year wait. And Tales of Berseria was worth the 2-year wait as well. Persona 5. We waited only, I think maybe 4 or 5 years. I can't remember. And any of the Hyperdimension Neptunia games, they didn't have like the sort of notorious 10-year wait. No, they didn't have any of this sort of ridiculous wait. So, but Final Fantasy 15, that RPG took 10 years to make, and it fully did not live up to the promises, which is why we got all this DLC crap, which they're going to try and expand, you know, the Final Fantasy 15 story. And some of it was just not worth it. Some of it was just not worth it. But let me say this. Well, I'll just put these away first. There it is. Found it. So it was just not what. Let me just say this. Even though I've done the DLC for 15, there's going to be more DLC content for it coming maybe in the next few months or 2019. It's at this point, do we really need more content of Final Fantasy 15? Do we need an episode of Arden? Do we need an episode of Arnea? Do we need an episode of Noctis? Even though we clearly go through the whole story of Final Fantasy 15 as just not as Noctis. Even the Platinum demo has you playing as a young boy Noctis. before he takes on or was it his giant golem thing as a grown up. It's where at this point the whole Final Fantasy XV universe really just should stop when it has the chance. It could have a chance to stop if you could at least make it stop. Otherwise, I don't know how worse the Final Fantasy XV universe is going to possibly get, or how much crap they're going to throw in with 15 now. I mean, some of the new stuff isn't going to possibly be worth it. And at this point, I just really want Final Fantasy XV just to stand down. So that is it, guys. I finally finished Final Fantasy XV and I can finally uninstall the game. Another things I do want to say about Final Fantasy XV I could rant on. I can have more things that are done about Final Fantasy XV. How they got a regalia type skin for Forza on the Xbox One. An Assassin's Creed event for Final Fantasy XV, and a Final Fantasy XV event in Assassin's Creed Origins. Trust me guys, it's true. There's a Final Fantasy XV event in Assassin's Creed Origins. Or how Noctis is in Tekken 7. And let me just say this, right? Why would we want Noctis in Tekken 7? For Soul Calibur 6, he would be fine for it. He would be fine for Soul Calibur 6. I can understand because he's a weapon orientated fighter. But Tekken is a non-weapon orientated tournament fighter. It doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, you got Soul Calibur 4 where Yoda and Darth Vader were featured as playable characters in Soul Calibur 4. And they had lightsabers, which in some way it kind of makes sense. Probably not a whole lot. You had Yoshimitsu in the first Soul Calibur game and it made sense. You had Link and Hayachi with a weapon. I think, I'm not sure. And Spawn in Soul Calibur 2, which made sense. Noctis, okay, doesn't make any sense at all, and he has no purpose belonging in Tekken. But out of Tekken 7, I'll be playing as the Geese Howard DLC and just kick Noctis out of the Geese Howard building right now, because Noctis is just not worth it. So it does mean that I'm done with Final Fantasy XV for the time being. And I can uninstall this game off my console and make room for other games I want to do. And I know you all will and I know what some of you guys, you two tell me. Alright, another part to this. What else? What's I going to say? Oh yeah, since I have finished Final Fantasy XV, I would do the ultimate duty of doing one of the things I always do and I have been doing for some of my Final Fantasy playthroughs, killing them off. Well, that is, I already have. I've already fought in, was it Narcissus party members in the other Final Fantasy in episode Ignis and the Comrades DLC. So you can just watch those. Because because all I can think about now is how much I really want to uninstall Final Fantasy 15 off my console right now. But one thing I'll do before I uninstall the game is upload the videos of the Royal Edition Final Fantasy 15 playthrough. The Royal Path Final Fantasy 15 playthrough will be uploaded tonight, so I'll work on that. And then finally I'll work on the review of Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition to see whether or not the changes were made better or worse. It'll be uploaded on my channel. I just really wanted to get all of this Final Fantasy 15 stuff off my chest. I'm really not looking forward to more of Final Fantasy 15 if they are fully announced or not. And instead I would rather look forward to a possible announcement of a Tales of Vesperia remaster. Yes, it's rumoured, but it's unconfirmed at this point. It's fully not 100% confirmed at this point. It's rumoured now, and it's possible we could possibly see the highly requested Tales localization of all time. The Tales of Vesperia port we wanted since its launch on the PS3, but we'll see. So this was my rant on Final Fantasy 15. Overall, this game wasn't worth the 10-year wait, and I hope that Final Fantasy 16 could undo the damage, put the series back to its roots, and put the series back in its place, being turn-based and nothing more. Quit being an action RPG game, quit being an MMO, quit doing other things with the numeric sequel square, put it back to turn-based and leave it as it is, unless it's a spin-off game. So, take care of yourselves, guys, and see you all next time. Goodbye.